Grr.
Hey, and welcome back to The Office Field Guide. This is Chris from Mulverine Films, and we're reviewing every episode of The Office ever. Today we're looking at episode 4 from season 4, entitled Money. This is the 4th hour-long episode in a row, and these are beginning to get exhausting. I'm going to apologize now, as I've got a lot to say about this episode. But, as always, this is a review of the plot, some funny bits, and some easy-to-miss stuff, as well as just my thoughts on the deeper meaning. Money is the 7th and 8th episode of the 4th season of The Office, and is the show's 60th and 61st episode overall. It was written and directed by Paul Lieberstein, which is why Toby is mostly absent from this episode. It first aired on October 18th, 2007, and was viewed by 8.5 million people. So let's bounce right into this one. See what it did there? It said bounce. It was like a check. When you bounce a check. Let's just go.
Just explain what that is.
Explain what you think that is.
Okay. Just explain that.
As money becomes increasingly tight for Michael, mostly due to Jan, as well as some poor financial choices of his own, Michael begins to confront his financial issues by doing everything he can think of in the most Michael way possible.
I declare...
In the B plot, we see Jim and Pam spend the night at Schrute Farms' bed and breakfast. In this, we get to see more of Jim and Pam's relationship, as well as a better look at just how difficult of a time Dwight is having after Angela broke up with him for killing her cat. There's also a couple of C plots in this episode too, which are really just the love triangles between Dwight, Angela, and Andy, as well as Ryan, Kelly, and Daryl.
No one asked you anything ever?
Just to start with, I'm not a big fan of this cold opening. This is the one where Michael is acting out different movies that he's renting from Netflix, like The Devil Wears Prada. I don't know. It's okay. I think with a few tweaks, this might have been hilarious, but there's just something missing from this that doesn't quite connect. I'll give it some extra credit for fitting 2 money-related movie references into the opening sequence that's loosely supporting the theme of this episode, so I guess I'll give him that. I figured the best way to break down this episode is to start by taking a look at what's causing Michael's money issues. For simplicity's sake, I'll be taking more of an anecdotal look at this. For a more in-depth analysis of Michael's financial issues, you should check out 10K Productions' video entitled How Broke is Michael Scott? I'll put a link to that in the description below. Okay, so to begin, it's revealed that Michael's traded in his car to buy Jan a Porsche, which I don't fully understand, as it's been stated several times that Michael Sebring is a company car.
But she will be
Did
up...
this happen on company property?
Yes. It was on company property with company property. So, double jeopardy. We are fine. Used to have 2 cars. Traded them in. Now we're down to 1. Good economic sense. Although the new car's a Porsche for her.
Which is either a pretty amusing joke and a scathing indictment at the lack of oversight that corporate has on what's going on in the Scranton branch, or it's just a throwaway line that the writers didn't overthink. So to add to the financial issues, Jan's redecorating the condo, which is shown when Michael and Jan are talking about couches in Michael's office. Jan still doesn't have a job, which forces Michael to secretly pick up a second job in the evening. Jan's candle-making business has some implications here too. We see at the dinner party that there are so many candles already made. We see Michael ask Jim and Andy for $10,000 as an investment into Jan's candles. This doesn't necessarily mean that they've spent $10,000 on it, but we can imagine that they've spent a lot and that they've made nothing on it. It's also revealed in the dinner party episode that around this time, Michael's had 3 vasectomies. I'm not sure how much a vasectomy costs, but based on some quick Google searches, it depends on your insurance, the kind of procedure that you get, and what kind of follow-up visit is required. Which, in Michael's case, had a few different follow-up visits.
What? Reverse back! Snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap! You have no idea the physical toll that 3 vasectomies have on a person!
Lastly, Jan isn't the only one that's to blame here. When looking over Michael's finances, Oscar says Michael has spent money on things that no one ever needs, like a Core Blaster Extreme exercise machine, which is not the unused Bowflex machine that we see in Michael's garage later in the season, and multiple magic sets. Michael tries several things throughout the episode to try to make additional money, including picking up a second job, considering large gambling bets, advances on a salary, and declaring bankruptcy verbally, not actually. Oscar decides to help Michael to review his finances and concludes that Michael needs to confront Jan on their situation. I'll get more to the resolution of this plotline in a few minutes, as it's vital to the deeper meaning of this episode. And so while we're just breaking down things in this episode, let's take a look at Schrute Farms because there's some great stuff here. This is our first extended look at Schrute Farms, and it's the first time we've been back since Dwight took Ryan there in an earlier season. It gives us a better look at the character of Dwight. So here's my list of everything that I caught while watching this episode. Mose is both the bellboy and the activities director. Activities include plowing fields, making tables, beet wine classes, mattress making, tour of fields, barn, slaughterhouse, beehive maintenance, beet planting, and Moses' trampoline extravaganza.
Cannonball! Ooh! Lemon bomb! Jim, Pam, watch. Jim, Pam, watch. Jim, Pam, watch.
Okay, we're watching, Mose.
Okay, go Yankees!
Theme rooms include America, irrigation, and nighttime. I've always wondered what the nighttime room is like. Maybe it's just painted black, like Dwight painted the manager's office at the end of last season.
Abandon all hope, ye who enter here.
Schrute Farms is completely wireless, thanks to Mose hiding all the wires. And Dwight has an iMac in his room, which seems out of character for him. Schrute Farms doesn't conform to any traditional mattress size, with their biggest attraction being over a 200-year-old mattress. There's also a ton of hilarious things in this episode too, and as normal, instead of me taking all the time to just talk about them, here's a brief montage.
At the end of my life, when I'm sitting on my yacht, am I going to be thinking about how much money I have? I mean, I have a yacht, so I obviously did pretty well money-wise.
TripAdvisor is the lifeblood of the agritourism industry. A couple of bad reviews there, you may as well close up shop.
Oh my gosh.
Everybody in the conference room in 5 minutes.
These meetings are useless.
How did Ryan use it as an object?
As an object.
Ryan used me as an object.
If I had money problems, would I do this?
You know, with that one, they actually wrote it that Michael would tear up the dollar bill, but then later they realized it was a federal offense. So they decided to just have him crumple it up. I think the joke works so much better with Michael just crumpling it. And if you notice off to the side, Pam is fighting back laughter, and it makes me laugh every time.
Jan, he went running that way. Oh.
And this might constitute as a hidden goodie. I love when she throws the keys at him like that, but if you notice in this next scene, she's still holding her keys. So on to some hidden goodies. I love that Michael has taken on this gym-like lackadaisical attitude in his new job, and he's actually kind of popular. I guess I should also say that Michael Scott kind of influenced me to become a movie reviewer from this short little bit in this episode. Okay, maybe it didn't influence me that much, I don't know. I don't think I noticed it on the first watch, but I noticed watching this again that Dwight's actually holding the angel that Angela said that was still at Dwight's house, and he said it wasn't. It gives us a little bit more insight that Dwight is really holding on to this relationship. Let's rewind a little bit. We know that Dwight tried to give a cat to Angela after he killed Sprinkles. The cat he tried to give to Angela, its name was Garbage. Angela rejected that cat. Dwight threw that cat into Vance refrigeration. Fast forward to this episode, and Andy gives a cat to Angela that he says he found outside Vance refrigeration, which, as we know, is Garbage. That cat gets renamed to Bandit. Bandit is the cat that Angela throws into the ceiling when Dwight starts the fire in the office. That's also the cat that Jim puts the diaper on when he's trying to learn how to put diapers on babies. Whew, that was a lot. Okay, and so this is kind of a fun one. In the Talking Head interview, Creed famously says that he transfers his debt to another identity known as William Charles Snyder, whose passport he actually holds up. In real life, William Charles Snyder is really Creed Bratton's birth name, and the birth date on the passport is Bratton's real birth date, February 8th, 1943.
Why don't you explain this to me like I'm 5?
Okay, so let's talk about deeper meaning. I think that this episode, it compares facades to being real. Communication is a common theme throughout this episode entitled Money. It's my belief that this episode is primarily about people being real in their relationships. I won't make some bold claim here as I don't have all the data, but money is a key contributor to why a lot of relationships don't last. So I think the writers are using money as a relatable example to tell their moral. So let's look at Michael and Jan in this. Michael and Jan's relationship is dysfunctional for many, many reasons. This episode focuses on money as one aspect of their relationship, but it's been shown to be screwed up in so many ways. This is a common theme throughout this episode, is that Jan is spending Michael's money at an alarming rate, and she seems to be oblivious to the problem. This might be due to genuine ignorance as to how much money a regional manager at a small paper supply company in Scranton, Pennsylvania might make, based on the fact that Jan is a former New York City executive. Regardless of this, Jan's ignorance doesn't have a chance to get fixed as Michael refuses to talk to her about his money problems and confront her for her spending habits. The moment that Michael does and realizes that Jan won't take responsibility, he literally runs away. This leads to a heartfelt moment on the train. Jan confides in Michael that he's the only one who never turns his back on her. Now maybe this got left on the cutting room floor, but I think what's sad about this is that the money issue is not resolved at the end of this. They walk away as though it's been resolved, but it hasn't. The facade is still up. Michael never really deals with what's going on. We also see this theme at play with Jim, Pam, and Dwight. Though Dwight's at first unwilling to be vulnerable about his depression and pain from his breakup with Angela, he slips up enough to allow Jim and Pam to see what he's really feeling. When Dwight finally shares his emotions with Jim, you get Jim, who's not one who tends to wear his heart on his sleeve, is willing to share his story with Dwight. This leads to one of the coolest scenes inside of the stairwell. Connection is key here though. Dwight is 10 seconds away from making a genuine emotional connection with Jim, but he hesitates, and because of that, he's left there alone in the stairwell by himself. This is juxtaposed to Jim immediately going and physically kissing Pam to express his love. However, it seems that this moment was enough to get Dwight back on track, and it leads to this great payoff to the stairwell scene.
Hello, this is Chris. Oh, okay. Sure. Yeah, I can take care of that right now.
And we can also see this facades versus being real with Daryl and Kelly. And though their storyline is very, very short in this episode, we see it in these two quotes.
I like you. But you need to access your uncrazy side.
Daryl Filden is the most complicated man that I have ever met. I mean, who says exactly what they're thinking?
In general, I think the writers are trying to convey that for relationships to flourish, we need to have genuine connection. And to have genuine connection, we have to be real with who we are, where we are, our struggles, our victories, everything. All the good stuff that can come out of a relationship comes because we're real.
What gives you the right?
So time for some ratings. Okay, so for the cold opening, I'm giving this a 2 out of 5. It's not one of my favorites. It's not the worst thing that's ever aired on television before, but, I don't know. Michael acting like Meryl Streep is pretty good, and Pam figuring out the whole Macushla riddle thing is good for a snicker, but I think that's it. I don't know. There's not much to say about this. I guess I do give it a little credit for having 2 money-related movies dropped into it. I don't know. Maybe you like it more, I don't know. But I give it 2 out of 5. As for the episode, I give it 4 out of 5. I wouldn't rate this as one of my favorite episodes of all time, but it has heart. It's good television. Seeing Jim and Dwight actually exchange a heartfelt moment is powerful. It kind of sparks this idea that these two can have more than just an adversarial relationship. Seeing Schrute Farms is also pretty awesome. Michael's time at his other job is pretty great too. Overall, this episode's really good, and for an hour long, for it not to seem like it drags on, it's pretty great. Overall, this is a really good episode that really weaves a central theme throughout it. I really like this episode.
And then I gotta get him to the Dundies.
And the Dundee for the best declaration of all time goes to Michael Scott.
I declare bankruptcy! I do declare
And the Dundie for the best TripAdvisor review goes to Angela. So go ahead and read this for you. It says, "Stay away. Proprietor is crazy. I have to warn people about the proprietor of Schrute Farms. He may portray himself as a gentleman farmer, but he is not what he seems. He killed my cat Sprinkles. Who knows what he might do to you or your loved ones. This TripAdvisor member disliked the owner." All right, so thanks for watching this episode of The Office Field Guide on money. Next week, we're going to be looking at Season 4, Episode 5, entitled The Local Ad. I love that episode, and it really always inspires me. I love it, and I'm also kind of a nerd. I get it. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe. That helps you get notifications for when I've got new content up. It also helps me out. Also, don't forget to leave a comment. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you didn't like. Think I missed something? Put it in the comments. You think I totally misunderstood the theme of this episode? Put it in the comments. Anything else you can think of, put it in the comments. Don't care. All right. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
I'm sorry, we only take MasterCard or Diners Club.
You take that. Come on. Come on. Here we go.
Makushla. He's watching $1 Million Baby. He's gonna try to kill me.